Welcome to Familiar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. Here we talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old. So grab your talking cap and transform into some comfy clothes as we step into a familiar territory. My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley.
So Brantley, I'm very excited about this specific episode.
You sound extremely excited.
I'm really excited. So we're going to be covering one of my favorite shows of all time, which is Flip Flappers, which I rarely reference in this show, but it is a anime original made by Studio 3HZ, 3 Hertz. It was actually their third anime they've ever done. And to be honest, they haven't really done much since. Their first show they did was Celestial Method, which I've never heard. Their probably most famous show they've done is Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. So that was basically what they did. They did do Black Fox, which I really liked, but I know a lot of people didn't like. But I'm real excited for it. It is fairly traditional in terms of magical girl anime. It does get weird at some parts. But it came out in 2016, and it has some of the most fun visuals I've seen in a show. It has a few things that I'm not big fan on, but I believe this is one of my few 10s.
Man, I need to figure out how to do intros like you do, because that was smooth. I give textbooks. That was a beautiful little, you know what? That was like a Butterfinger of an intro.
And Bart Simpson's coming to steal it.
With all 5 of his fingers. Wait, do Simpsons characters have 5 fingers?
No, they don't.
Oh, that's right. So I was thinking back to the ad where they make some snarky comment, and then the bully character, who I don't know because I didn't watch The Simpsons, says, "I'll give you 4 fingers," and then he punches the screen. And I was like, well, then it would be 4 fingers and a thumb, but I've outwitted myself. And boy, yes, I feel foolish. This is why I have you cover, more than half of the introductions.
So, Flip Flappers is
not The Simpsons.
It's not The Simpsons. It did not overstay its welcome. In fact, it's only, I believe, 13 episodes long in total.
The people who like it would say it understayed its welcome and want it back.
Yeah, it was a financial failure. It was really weird because when I watched it as it was coming out, which is pretty unusual for me in terms of anime. I'll watch shows once they're finished. I rarely stick with a show while it's coming out, with a few exceptions, and Flip Flappers was one of those. And I remember going to Reddit to read about the discussion, and they'd have maybe 25 comments.
Mm-hmm.
So it was super weird seeing the show that I know has flaws, and I know isn't a show for everyone. I feel like Flip Flappers is a solid 7 for most people,
mm-hmm.
but it's so weird that the show got so little exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that during this time you had shows like Yuri on Ice that were out, and that show was getting a ton of exposure. And this is, I believe, the newest magical girl show we've looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, because Raising Project came out in 2014, and everything else has been fairly mid 2000s to late 90s. So
mm-hmm.
Flip Flappers came out in 2016, and I believe that it's about time to get started. Are you ready, Brantley?
I am ready. Let's get into this explosion of color and magic and unfortunate financial failure, but that's okay. Let's go.
All right. So we are watching this on Verve, and we will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. So it opens up with our main character, Kokona, taking an exam. I really like... What?
I thought you were going to say we open with our 2 main characters, and it's face on the left and face on the right.
Oh, no. No, I really like the character designs in this. Just because...
choose the best answer. Those are the worst questions.
And it looked like it was English. It looks like she's taking some English. So we got an alarm going on, and we have some very disorienting first-person views. And now we have our second main character, Paprika. See, that girl is. I don't think she's dead. I
Probably
think she's
knocked out.
just. Yeah, because she's looking for someone to have a connection with, and this is Dr. Salt, and he runs this this
Garage
laboratory.
science lab.
Yep. This show's weird. And so she's trying to be stopped by a robot, and she's flying on her hoverboard.
Yeah, you might notice this is not your average like Toei magical girl show. Might have been a financial failure, but they put money in this thing. Like,
well, and the music's really fun. Like you have this like little like boppy like xylophone run going on. So Paprika, who's flying around on her surfboard, is looking for someone, a candidate, and that's all we know. And I believe we get an opening in the first episode, and the song is an absolute banger. And the opening is just really bright and colorful. It really focuses on the song. A lot of it has some movements with the song. God, I just love this show. And it kind of emphasizes the fall of magical girl shows, because you don't get them very often. Like with every season, you'll get 2 to 3 isekai or some slice of life shows, but you don't really see this genre explored that much anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, I'd say that was like before the 2000s was more likely.
Which
yeah, I don't know.
Which is weird because you still get things like Madoka Magica, which is very popular and one of Shaft's biggest financial successes. I love that part where the guy's just spinning and shooting missiles. It's so good. So the opening has a few characters that we haven't really met, but as most anime dudes, oh my god, I forgot about the fucking bunny. Uexical. Now this show has a ton of allegory to like sexual psychology and like
for example the windmills right there, referencing the
bird death,
which is a very common part of most people's sexual experiences, as best as I can gather.
So, she's our Coconuts on a boat, and she's talking to someone, and then she wakes up in her bed. It's a dream. But
well, spoilers, man. Like, hey, no, I'm kidding.
So, Coconut lives with her grandma, who is adorable, and she has a future.
Yeah, we're setting up like a near future kind of scenario,
right? One of the things I really like about this show, even though it has sort of like how Darling in the Franxx has this idea of sexual psychology and like growing up, this does it way better, and there's very, very little fan service in this show in comparison.
Comparatively.
So it's very subtle with a lot of it. And it's not the forefront, and I think it does it really well. So we got her little town, which is kind of classical European almost.
It's rustic, despite like the sort of near future stuff we've been seeing so far in the aesthetics.
It has the backgrounds are gorgeous in this show. They're fairly soft and muted, and then the characters are pretty bright and out there. So she saw Paprika.
Sorry guys, that's our first character death.
Yep, Paprika just gets hit by a fucking robot, runs into a train, and is dead.
Yikes.
I forgot how.
Let's pour one out for Paprika. And there's our wonderful, certainly won't become useless side character to,
that character's not even the side character.
I can root for her.
There's another side character. So we got some weird twins with gray hair who are following Paprika.
Well, they were. Now she's gone. They're not doing a very good job, Grant.
Also, the school looks like a school. Like, it's not like Utena or a lot of shows.
Hey, yeah, I think Utena is maybe the stand out. Not necessarily.
It-
But yeah.
It's
I get it.
Ritsu.
Just because her hair's pulled up like that doesn't mean she's Ritsu. But she's
she's-
also finding school of pain and stands at average height. Has a seemingly close relationship with another friend with dark hair. But no, I think maybe we're just stretching it a little bit.
So now it's talking about which schools to pick. Going to, I don't know if it's high school in this or
Probably
college.
high school.
Papiko was in the background.
Oh, I saw that. I don't think
And
I saw that the first time.
She was hanging out in the window, and it looks really weird because she's upside down, so it doesn't look like a normal human face.
Mm-hmm. Hanging out in the nurse's office, which is second to hanging out on the roof for weirdo things to do if you're an anime character, and even weirder to do in real life, I can assume.
So, she's on nurse duty, and the one patient is her tomboy friend who I called Ritsu, who just actually was just there to hang out and not go to class.
Yeah. Skipping.
Go home if you're feeling sick. I wish people would tell me that at work.
Yeah, so she's sick of school. Oh.
Now we got this really weird... Oh, man, I love the designs of this background. It has like rolling hills of different colored grass, and it looks like a farmland, and there's just a bunch of people playing badminton and painting. Ooh, a storage space. Because when I have a storage space, you know where I like to store things, Brantley?
Outside.
In the woods.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The trees protect them.
So, Brantley, how much do you remember of the show? Did you watch all of it?
Yeah, I watched all of it. I remember flashes of it.
Okay.
Which will probably become more, like, apparent as we go along, and more of those, like, recall cues hit, but in the meantime. Oh, we have a name drop for Yayaka. I believe that's Tomboy Friend? Oh.
Yeah, it is. So, Papika, they're hanging out in this pipe, and Papika's just watching.
Yeah,
and
she just came out of Mario Bros.
And she found Kokona, and that's what she was looking for. And now Kokona's real freaked out.
Yeah.
And she's excited to see Kokona. And she smells her, which is weird. But there was a theory that Papika was a dog turned into a human because she's kind of dense and also hates the smell of nail polish and sniffs everything, which is very dog-like traits. And she's always friendly and always happy. So she's asking Kokona to follow her to the garage laboratory. So now we got the worst character in the game. I mean, not the game, the show.
Yeah.
Who's the pervert robot. I hate him a lot. But it's alright. Because they got Papika, and they found the partner candidate.
And drift compatible, they see.
What'd you say?
I said drift compatible. You'll see they're now syncing. I'm tempted to say Ava connections here. That's not okay.
Yeah, see.
My God.
See, that's the part I don't like about this. I hate pervert robot.
Yeah.
And then they went back into the pipe and it dripped dark Ecor. And now there's some trippy fucking visuals.
Dude, they got on the Mario Bros. Mushrooms, and now they are tripping. They will stomp on a Goomba, and it will be very blood and gore.
So Papika's happy because she made it into the other world, which I'm guessing is what the other girl couldn't.
So,
and that's why.
So can we assume that Kokona was like anticipating? Sorry, Papika's anticipating Kokona just may die as a result of this pursuit.
Because she did say you're alive.
Imagine if you were walking a dog and it constantly drags you out into traffic, and it's just like, huh? Just gives you this look of like, yeah, it's pretty cool you survived, isn't it?
So they're now in a very snowy land, and it wasn't snowy where they were. And it's pure illusion, which is alternate worlds.
Yeah.
And it looks cold as shit.
Yeah. Which is funny because earlier, Paprika just came out at the night, and she's like, "Oh, it's cold,"
and now she's running in
no
snow.
mention of it at all.
And so Pure Illusion is the fake worlds that they go to.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, not fake worlds, the alternate worlds.
Yeah.
And each episode has something pure something is their title. It's like the duels and Utena, but not nearly as cool.
I mean, it's nice that, say, instead of a villain of the week, you also get an entire environment, which is new. I think maybe a couple of them carry over more than one episode, but in essence, it's still a lot of work to put in.
That is true, and that is exciting that you do get different settings to explore. I know one of them is a horror anime. Do you remember that episode? I believe it's the 4th episode.
Yes, I remember that episode.
It's great. I know. So
we'll split our differences on that one.
You don't like that episode?
I do not. But hey, we're not evaluating that episode. We're evaluating this one, in which Coconut just got popped in the head with a snowball
and fell face down
in
snow. These girls are super okay. Oh, right, I forgot. It's not snow. It's like sugar or something. But if it was snow, I was going to say they are taking it quite well because, my goodness, anytime that I touch snow, I'm immediately sad.
Oh.
So I forgot that the first episode, it's super weird because I remember watching the first episode with you and Tucker and our apartment.
Yep.
When we lived together, and I remember like being very much confused as to what the show was gonna be, and I don't think I would have guessed it.
Well, Coconut is already breaking apart here, huh?
So the first episode so far, we've gotten like some pretty much goofy shots of them enjoying this snow world. And Poppycut doesn't know what frosted trees are. These are a real phenomenon where snow will bundle up and they'll make these temporary snow trees, essentially. So we're going to get, I believe, the first magical transformation here in a bit. But so right now they are putting down essentially breadcrumbs to be able to as markers, and Paprika was eating them.
I mean, perhaps Coconut is the fool here, considering they do have a jet surfboard, to navigate with. So
that's fair.
Unless they took that thing for a very slow cruise, I don't know that they would get very far.
So they made an igloo to hang out in the snow world. And Coconut is taking it very, very okay.
I think her experience is up and down like the sine waves we saw earlier on their syncograph.
That's fair.
It's kind of like, whoa, I'm having fun, and then straight to like out-of-body experience, which I can relate to.
That's fair. And Coconut doesn't really believe that it's real. And Poppycuz pretty much like, hey, it's all right because you're here with me. And that's very important for later in this show. So Poppycuz asking Coconut to go on a treasure hunt, and that's the reason they've come to this pure illusion world.
And they're looking for a treasure which smells like coconut. So we can only assume the treasure is another person or has some kind of essence which relates to coconut.
Right.
Which is interesting. We'll have to see where that goes.
I mean, I know where it goes, but I want people to watch this show.
Second character death. Rest in peace, Buchan.
I forgot.
He has again.
I forgot that he has an actual brain in his robot. Carapace.
Coconut's also busted out her glasses here. Well, not so much for that.
Buy glasses. So the snow trees are actually little beasties with yellow eyes. And by little beasties, I mean they're giant. They're huge. So
Buchan's got a Walmart symbol waking up there.
He did.
No wonder
I was
he's
going to
crap.
mention So she doesn't have her glasses, and she's pulling a Velma, and Paprika is using her hands as fucking binoculars. So she's sad that she doesn't have her glasses, even though we saw her have her glasses in the nurse's office, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now she needs them. I guess she's probably like me, and she just needs them for specific tasks.
Not to mention, it's more of a hassle getting new glasses than finding them while they're lost.
I broke my glasses like a week and a half ago, and I still haven't replaced them.
Mm-hmm.
I just pop the lens in and hope it doesn't pop out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get the impression that Kokona, living with her grandmother, doesn't want to be a bother, and so
yeah,
probably pretty important for her to get those glasses back now.
So Buchan is going to be taking Kokona so that Paprika can go and try and get her glasses from these moving big boys.
Mm-hmm. There she goes. Got a good old wall run segment going on here to flex the animation budget a little bit.
They do. They have a lot of what's the thing that Trigger likes to do? Blend.
I mean, like you smear frames, maybe, or
smear frames, which are a good way to make it look like it's a lot more smooth than it is, and when used right, can make the animation really good. And I think there's a lot of smear frames in this, but they use them enough and well enough to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
they know when to go off model. I think that's important. And
Paprika's still trying to get these glasses, and Kokona's like, don't do it because you will die, and it is not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
there she goes.
And I believe this is
our third character death. Oh, no, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know.
Our third character death, it's Paprika again?
Yeah. She'll be missed.
The show's actually only one episode. It's very tragic.
Mm-hmm. Imagine you meet someone you've never met in your dreams, and then they die in said dream. Like
that happens a lot more than I'd like to care to admit.
I think maybe then we'll talk about that not on a podcast. Perhaps we'll do our own little psychological exploration. Uh-oh.
So Kokina is upset because Paprika went into the water and is gone. And so now we get the magical girl transformation, which I don't know if it has like a full-on animation. I think it just kind of happens.
Later on it does. We'll see what they pulled off in episode 1.
Nope, it just... Oh, right. So when Kokina does magical girl transformation, her hair turns pink. And I don't know if Paprika does it in this episode. Nope. Oh, fuck. I forgot they have the Dragon Ball Z instant transmission sounds and effects.
Mm-hmm.
So she broke the ice to go get Paprika, and it created a nice, pretty, sparkly geyser. And it was very intense and very explosive.
I like how the water instantly sort of freezes up into the snow there.
Right.
It's really cool.
So I don't think we see it in this episode, but I probably will talk about it just because I like the how they do it and later in the show. So she got the glasses, but she did end up breaking them. So she's pretty shocked that she is doing the transformation because that's super important to the plot, and I think Paprika knows about it, but not very well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So we get a fairly goofy first episode.
Oh, where's that giant snow pile? Oh.
What? Oh, yeah, and when they landed on the ice, it did the black drip that they did to get to this place in the first place.
So we're heading back.
And they're at the pipe again. And Kokona probably thinks it's a dream because she has weird dreams already. But nope, she's got a cool-ass rock in her hand, and really, What more do you want in life?
Mm-hmm. What is that cool rock, Grant?
I don't fucking know. It's probably some sort of turquoise.
Kool-Aidium.
Kool-Aidium?
Yeah.
That sounds delicious and very sugary. So it wasn't a dream. Oh, dude. I'm going to talk about how much I hate Yuri on Ice here in a bit. Not because I actually hate Yuri on Ice, but there was some anime polls that came out during this time. And this show has a sick-ass ending. It's so cool. Yep. But during this time, Yuri on Ice was out. And everyone knows that show is very popular. Mm-hmm. And it won everything. And, like, user polls. And Flip Flappers was nominated for literally one award. Mm-hmm. And it was Best Ending. And Yuri on Ice still fucking won. Yeah. And it made me so mad.
It's a popularity contest by the numbers, so...
Oh, right. But it's pretty... And there's some interesting theories about the ending of the show. Because it's like... It's like fairy tale-esque with its animation, and Coconut and Paprika are wearing, like... Hansel and Gretel-esque. I gotta stop saying esque. I say it so much.
You don't have to.
I didn't realize. But, and then the story that's, like, playing up in the top is Hansel and Gretel with them throwing a witch into a fire. Mm-hmm. And people talk about how this is, like, what happens after the show ends. But then there's whole things on it. But love the ending of that show. Mm-hmm. So I forgot how slow the show moves for the first few episodes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's slow necessarily, but it feels that way when you know where it goes, I suppose.
I guess that's right. I guess that's true. It is it's also confusing as shit. It took me like a lot of like reading to realize what happens and explain what goes on. Mm-hmm. And I know some people say it's kind of like Evangelion.
That person is me. But
it was you. And we can talk about
if we ever do a retrospective, then we can talk more, but...
Oh, also, Paprika and Coconut are getting kidnapped. That's the end of this episode. By some mysterious armored figures. Yeah. Will they have importance in the show? Not nearly as much as you think they would.
The Kool-Aidium did stop glowing when it was off of Coconut, so it seems that... And seeing that Dr. Salt there also had a glowing rock.
Fuck. I forgot that his name was Dr. Salt, which is such a stupid but awesome name.
But yeah, clearly there's something going on there where those rocks are not just MacGuffins. It's somehow, I mean,
they are MacGuffins.
Your definitions vary, yeah, but it is a hero-centric MacGuffin.
I really like the description of this episode. Mm-hmm. And it's girl meets girls go on adventure. And really...
What else do you need?
So that was the first episode of Flip Flappers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Brantley? I know you've seen the entire show, and I know I've seen the entire show. It has been like 4 years since I've seen the entire show, though. Mm-hmm. But what do you think of that specific episode?
I think that if people go into it being told this is a magical girl show, if you like magical girl shows, you'll like this, I could see where someone might not be convinced. You know, all we really got out of the first episode is sort of almost like a pseudo Super Saiyan transformation.
Right. Complete with the instant transmission and all that stuff.
Yeah, she pulled out a good old Kaioken there, and you know, defeated Vegeta, which is pretty bold of them to do that.
It was a very interesting crossover.
Yeah, if you didn't if you didn't actually catch it, that one's on you. It was just for 2 frames of animation. They did it on ones. So yeah, if you missed Vegeta there, he was there.
This shouldn't be happening. I don't understand.
Just to really say this show has some intricacies to it. No, I'm messing around. But for real, I feel that this show, you know, even if one wouldn't categorize it so closely into magical girl territory, I still think it has merits of the genre that aren't so, like, materialistic. So, where you might not have, like, you know, the toy-like implements or, you know, a vast team, especially not to start, what you do have are themes that are you know, sort of on the late modern end of magical girls. So
Right.
when things start leaning in heavily to you know, the lesbian undertones or you know, straight up lesbian romanticism, I feel like that's a little more recent. Not that it wasn't present, you know, as early as Sailor Moon, and probably even earlier if I had a better working knowledge of magical girl history, but I feel like in volume it's taking up on things like that, stuff that's a little more recent. So the action is a little more intense. You know, the colors are extremely bold, which you'll see out of your more recent Precures, where it's like, you know, we just take that color wheel and we saturate it all the way up. So in those senses, you know, spirit of girlhood, growing up in awkwardness, those things are still there. I wouldn't draw a direct corollary. Like, I don't see Papika as like a Sailor Moon type. She has like the clumsiness. She has the, you know, the role to grow into. But as you mentioned, she feels more like a dog than a person at some points.
Yes.
That's playing to an entirely different kind of writing. So it's interesting to see how it straddles that line.
Oh, and you're right. One of the things that I find I really like about this show is when, like, they have a lot of visual elements of, not allegory, what's the word I'm looking for? Visual metaphor, yeah. So you don't see it in this episode, but you do see it in episode 2. When Papika transforms into her magical girl form, she she has pink hair. And then when Papika turns into a magical girl, she has blue hair, and when Coconut does it, she has pink hair. So there's this kind of this kind of like parallelism between the two, that they have a little bit more of a connection than just what you see.
Mm-hmm.
It does get real weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like on the wiki right now because I'm trying to remember her bunny's name.
Mm-hmm. The little green animal creature thing that's bouncing around in the ending. Yeah.
It is a bunny. They say it's a bunny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the name of like some philosopher. And boy, does this show get whack. Now, with I know it's going to be hard to do it without too much spoilers, but you've compared it to Evangelion a little bit, and by a little bit, you told me, yeah, it kind of does that Evangelion thing.
Yeah, I've let that phrase slip out a few too many times. Even watching this first episode, I'm getting those vibes again. I think even stronger than the first time I watched it, now that I can sort of pay closer attention to the plot as opposed to sort of the moment-to-moment action. That being said, I don't think that's to diminish the show. When you have a large enough body of knowledge of any medium, then of course you can start stringing things to other things and whatnot. If we did a more full review of it, then, and if someone were to ask, then sure, I might entertain the idea of how do these things compare? But in the meantime, I'd rather not draw away from what Flip Flappers has to say, like, oh, Ava did that, or, whatever.
Come to think of it, just what is Ava? I don't know anything about it.
I think that critique should be placed in situations, of relevance and with sensitivity to the subject matter, and knowing that Flip Flappers really didn't get love from a wide fan base before, I think I want to see Flip Flappers enter the talk sphere before giving it that kind of speculation.
Okay. Right. So here's what I was looking for. The rabbit's name is UX-Cool. UX-Cool?
I think your audio messed up. Can you say that one more time?
It's German. And he's named after Jacob John Friener von UX-Cool, who is a biologist who studied animal behavior studies and the cybernetics of life. So, and there's a lot of parallels between his work and what Flip Flappers likes to do. His focus was how living beings perceive their environments, according to Wikipedia. So there was a lot of, do we see the Earth different from like a skunk or a dog or even like a sea urchin? He studied ticks, sea urchins, amoeba, jellyfish, and sea worms because of the kind of like they have less senses than we do in terms of how they interact with their world. So it's this show has that kind of shit going on for it.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of like Eternal Sonata meets John Jacob Jingleheimer Jugendbuch, whatever you call them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And that's kind of part of the why I like it. And like I said, I haven't seen it forever. And not like forever. It's been 4 years, but
so number 4 ever.
Yes, it's one of those things where I remember being confused, and I remember not really being like, yeah, I get it. It did, weirdly enough, get a dub. And what's weird is the dub cast is fairly popular. Like Lucy Christian is Coconut. And then which is I'm a little shocked by that. And then like Brittany Karbowski, who is a ton of people, she's also in it as well. And I wasn't aware of the dub. I'm surprised this show got a dub, considering its poor sales. But I really like this show. And part of me knows I really like the show because when I watched it, I was like stressed from school at the time. So I was like, holy shit, this show is goofy and fun, but also interesting and kind of weird. And I really enjoyed that at the time. So it holds a special place in my heart because of the environment that surrounded it, or the situation.
Well, I think that's a part of media that we shouldn't try to subtract. I think we're in an age where we want to take things out of context and generalize them and say like, well, it's good despite everything. But in all honesty, if something is personally relevant or interesting to you and has a power because of that, I think we shouldn't diminish that at all. Even in like a critical space, even if someone were to, be paid to talk about like, why do I or don't I appreciate this medium, or this piece of work within a medium, because that positionality is valuable. To be able to say Flip Flappers lifted you up in a hard time, not everything can do that. And that's its own kind of merit,
Right, absolutely.
I mean, look at our last episode we did. Go watch our last episode. We did it on Tokyo Mew Mew. But we had done that episode because we tried watching Magical Girl Sight, and it was too miserable to make an episode out of. So in comparison, Tokyo Mew Mew was a riot. We just loved it. Like that. Right. That immediate juxtaposition was a freaking, like. It was practically like the Paprika jet board into a new world,
Right.
I guarantee if anybody else we knew was in the room at the time when we watched Tokyo Mew Mew, they wouldn't be having the kind of time that we did. But I'll never forget that episode we watched because of what, relevant impact it had.
No, I'd agree. I think that a lot of shows will kind of resonate with people, and I think that's the thing that I like about the magical girl genre is that even when it's dark and depressing like Madoka,
mm-hmm.
it still has this kind of a hopeful aesthetic to it that is fun to watch, and I think that's what things like Raising Project fails to do when it does that darker turn on the magical girl shows, mm-hmm. is it kind of ignores that, bright and cheery aesthetic. And you can do dark magical girl, but I feel like you have to work within the aesthetic that people are expecting.
Mm-hmm. Everything within context, if you stray too far from those anchor points, and I think that's where it feels less genuine.
So any finishing thoughts that you have?
Yeah, If you're at all interested in checking out Flip Flappers, I would say go for it. Simply because you're not going to see another show like this, I think, for a while. At least looking at like seasonal trends, in the years since this came out, it's risky. It's going to bring you to some new places, but I think that's kind of the purpose. In the same sense that the characters are going to new places constantly. You're going to see stuff that's unorthodox, and I think that's a great place to sort of practice your awareness of where the genre can go. It's not as easy for this show in particular to just say, like, oh, it's this but darker, it's this but lighter, it's this but a gag, Instead, it feels like a new branch. If you're someone who's on the fence, then I would say still try it with an open mind and see how far you get. Obviously, having an open mind doesn't mean that you're ignoring your critical sensibilities. I mean, as I like this show, Grant loves this show. We can still point out, like, sexual harassment bot is not a good character, and this show could work without it. They're leaning on sort of these, like, KKK aesthetics for the villain cult, which, and that's kind of an anime thing. I've seen it in Nadia Secret of Blue Water. I've seen it in Giant Robo. Like, that's one of those landmark things that it's going to show up, but is worthwhile to view in context and then make some judgments on. I think in something like Flip Flappers, you get to have both of those worlds. You get to have the reality of aesthetics they're drawing from, and you also get to have, the imaginative sort of illustrations of what they can come up with beyond the real world. And it's interesting to see just how far they can reach, given the limitations that reality starts you off with, that reality anchors you to.
So I lied about Flip Flappers being newer than the Magical Girl Raising Project. Magical Girl Raising Project did come out in 2016. The manga was 2014.
Okay.
But it came out the same year that Flip Flappers did. And going through, I decided to take a look at like what other shows were around during 2016. Mm-hmm. And I can kind of see why Flip Flappers might have gotten swept under the rug. Mm-hmm. Not that I enjoy all these shows, but you had like ReZero was in there. That was the first season of Boku no Hero. Yuri on Ice was there during that time. You had Haikyuu come out during that time. Mm-hmm. You had a lot of shows. Space Patrol Luluco, which we all know is competing for that best anime of 2016 slot.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you'd consider that one a magical girl show. Probably not.
Maybe a little bit. We can stretch it out and talk about it one of these days.
When we run out of stuff.
You also got Danganronpa 3, The End of Hope Peaks High School.
Ooh.
Oops. Spoiler alert.
Hard pass on that one.
But
see,
I think...
if you're... No, we're not talking about Danganronpa. This is not a Danganronpa episode.
Yet. I think one of the things that it really shows that it's hard, because I'm looking at all these anime that came out in 2016. It can be hard to break the mold and kind of become something unique.
Mm-hmm.
And while I have qualms about My Hero Academia and while I have qualms about ReZero, I understand why they're popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand how they break that mold that people were doing. And I think Flip Floppers did break the mold. It's just there was so much that more people were focused on during this time.
Sure, yeah.
I do wish that we would have seen more of things like Flip Flappers from Studio 3 Hertz. They've done very little in terms of shows.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible that they do like outsourcing work more often?
It might be.
Because I saw they worked on Project W, and I think that was a Wit Studio one. I could be wrong.
Yeah. And they do a lot of
Dimension W, was it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But it is, it seems that if they are a studio, they're fairly small because they do a show maybe once every 2 years. They did not do one in 2019. They didn't do one in 2015. They didn't do one in they'll skip years. And they do co-animate with, for Dimension W, they did Orange, they did Actus for Princess Principal. They didn't do anything with the Sword Art Online alternative Gun Gale, but even then, I know Black Fox was going to be one of their original work shows, and it got the axe, which is why they turned it into a film. So that came out in 2019. Yeah. So that's kind of the one thing that they were going for. But I really like the way they do it. I think Flip Flappers is a fun show. And with that being said, I know I already asked you for your final thoughts, so do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just I would say go out of your comfort zone, take a shot on this one. I can't think of hardly any other like anchor points that would say, oh, you would definitely be a Flip Flappers fan because of this. And for that reason, try to flex it out. Even if you're, a hardcore Magical Girl fan, even if you're a hardcore shonen fan, shoujo fan, whatever it would be, it's difficult to see what bridges would directly lead to this one. So why not? You've got nothing to lose with this season of anime. And believe me, that is a timeless comment. So, with that, go try it out. Just try.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Familiar Territory. If you like this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Really do appreciate those comments. Or don't. We're not your dads.